Carl Fechner, co-author of the Growing Deep and Strong series and a life coach. And this is the next chapter of our life that we began on the 23rd of May 1990, where we became Christians or followers of Jesus Christ. So like all people, we joined a local church, and we joined one with our brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and they were the ones that had prayed us into the kingdom, which I'd mentioned on an earlier video. And so we found this coming from me particularly. Karen had some church upbringing, but I had absolutely none. So I found this a very difficult or very strange culture, and very difficult to understand. And it was like, when I sit back now and think about it, it was an us and them attitude. And when I say us and them, it was like the world out there and us in here. And really, you know, we alienated a lot of our friends through that time, and quite religious really when you stop and think about that. And there was a new language, and it was what I call Christianese. And it was a language that from an unchurched background we just didn't understand. But the one thing I did from reading those books of Frank Peretti's, This Present Darkness and Piercing the Darkness, and understanding the kingdoms and the spiritual dynamics and all of that stuff, is that I knew that God was the answer, that God was real, that I had a real encounter with God, and God was real. And the local church is the way that He's portrayed in our world system of today. So when I joined the local church, what I found is that there was no clear, simple learning path for anyone with a non-church background. There was teaching materials around and available, but they were fragmented and bits and pieces. And there was an assumption of that you had a church background. Now, I didn't know that at that time, but now when I look back, I can clearly see what it was at that time. Now, my knowledge, and this is for most people that are not Christians, that come from a non-church background, and is that they are in the same place. Now, to give you an idea, when I started to try and read the Bible, for one, I had no idea what the books of the Bible were, where it was, whatever. And when I started to read, all I could see is this big bad God. And it was in a language that most of them I just didn't understand. And really didn't have people to explain it to me, even though well-meaning people tried to explain it. But it was in bits and pieces. It wasn't actually taking me on a journey, which is what I really needed to do as a non-church background. In fact, let me tell you about my first Bible buying experience. Now, I've been into all sorts of places that really you wouldn't want to talk about or want to mention, or not even proud to mention. But here's the funny part of it when I go to get this first Bible. I remember going into the shop, and it was almost like this. I hope nobody sees me. Like I was sneaking around doing it and trying to buy a Bible, because I knew I couldn't find one that would just answer me. Now, the interesting thing about this person, God, is that He is real, and He knows us. Like He created us, and He knows us, so He knows our needs. And now I'm more conscious of this now, but of course then I wasn't. So I go into the shop, I know I need a Bible. So I go into this Bible shop, and as I said, like this, and I'm searching through all of the Bibles, and I find this Bible that says the Possibility Thinkers Bible. And I can't remember the scholar that wrote it, but what he had actually done is the power of positive thinking. That's right. All of the points that were in the Bible about the power of positive thinking were highlighted in a blue background. So it meant this is a positive thought from God type thing. And now I'm going back a lot of years now, and I've since given away the Bible to someone else. But it was a Possibilities Thinkers Bible. Now, God knew that I was someone that had pursued and spent a lot of money on positive training materials, positive thinking, etc., etc. So he placed across my path this Bible that I could then understand. So my journey began with this Bible. Now I'd get into church on a Sunday morning and I'd use this Bible, but the problem is they'd be saying, now turn to John such and such, or turn to John 3:16, or this. Now I had no idea what John 3:16 means. Now anyone that has a Christian background knows what John 3:16 is, but like from an unchurched background it means diddly squat, you have no idea. So again, the assumption is that someone, if they come into their Christian walk, they know the Bible, and there's an assumption that they know, and there's an assumption that they know all these things. So the other part was what I was finding in the church, or the church is what I call the church system, and really there's not a lot of system, I'm sad to say, is that they weren't actually dealing with the emotional baggage. Now, you know, I'd come into this, like I'd come into my Christian walk, and I'd broken every one of the 10 commandments. I had come from a very damaged childhood background. The demonic stuff that was in my life was massive, but it wasn't actually being dealt with. And so what happens for us when we come to a place, hey, we can't get this, and we realise we need deliverance, and we also realise we need emotional healing that needs to be done in our lives, we started to go outside of the church system and find it in other areas. Now, when I say find in other areas, I don't mean into non-Christian stuff. What I mean is that in the conventional church system, we had to go out and find fellow believers that specialised in deliverance or specialised in emotional healing. We couldn't find it in general in the local church. And on the area of deliverance, if you want to understand that, have a look at the video that I've got on why Christians need deliverance. That's a separate series and a separate story. So the other point is, don't get me wrong in the sense that we learnt lots on our walk in the church, but it wasn't a simple path. We really had to go on a journey of trying to find simple materials that could teach people like us from a church background. And how I found that, and found some of that, and why we wrote Growing Deep and Strong, is for the next video.